Before we get started, if you enjoy Joygasm, we'd love your support. Please consider becoming a monthly contributor. It only takes a minute, and it helps us a lot. To do that, visit patreon.com/Joygasm. Now on with the show. Well, hey there. Welcome back to Joygasm, where we chat about video games, movies, and pop culture. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. He, of course, is Steve, Xbox Live Stevavitch, and we have the honor of presenting the nominees for Best Fill in the Blank on episode 99 today, December 8th, 2018. We are going to forego gaming and movie news this week, instead focusing on the Game Awards that took place earlier this week, which will be our topic of the day. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which I could be, would be the first time, but I do believe that Steve may in fact have for us the gaming and movie, this week in gaming and movie anniversaries.
Yeah, something along those lines with those words in it.
That's right. Am I correct, Steve?
You're correct, Russ.
Wow. Call it a sixth sense.
Yes.
A sibling sense.
Call it an M. Night Shyamalan.
Call it whatever you want to call it.
Why are you reaching for me right here, Russ?
I'm not. I was pushing the cable a little over a little
You're in my space.
I like it in your space.
You're in my bubble.
So what's new with you?
Oh, well, I watched, let's see. I didn't watch much, actually. I watched the movie Split.
Is that the sequel to Unbreakable?
Yes, but it's like not really a sequel. It's you don't really, like, if you just went, oh, this sounds interesting, and watched it, at the end you will see Bruce Willis say something. And you're like, oh, hey, I saw a movie that was like that before. I think this might be connected. But all throughout the rest of the movie, there's nothing that links the other two or the other movie together.
I need to see that movie. It's on my watch list.
Is it really, Russ?
It is, because I thought that it was just a standalone film when it first came out. But then later on, I heard that, no, actually, it's tied into Unbreakable. And, of course, with the Glass movie that's coming out soon.
It's tied in by about 10 seconds.
But it makes sense just because of this new character that they're wanting to really flesh out. So I think it's, I'm curious to see. Did you enjoy the movie?
Well, not really.
Why does that not surprise me?
Because the story just didn't really, I don't know. The story was too, like, not flipped around, all over the place. Too scattered. Let me just put it that way. The story was too scattered. What's his name? James, the main character, McGorvey? I don't know. I don't know his name. I can look it up real quick now. James McAvoy. McAvoy.
McCovey? McCovoy?
McAvoy. McDonald's.
There you go. Happy Meal. What are you trying to say here?
Big Mac. No, wait. I'm hungry.
Heart attack, disease, diabetes. Where are we going with this?
Totally not sponsored by McDonald's, by the way.
No.
Totally not sponsored by McDonald's.
Probably ruined our chances anyway.
Anyhow.
Supersize Me.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that was a good movie.
That was a good movie. Oh, good. A movie that you actually like.
Yeah, that was one of those documentaries that you didn't glaze over at, you know? Mm-hmm. Good movie.
It was a good movie.
Anyhow.
I need to watch it again.
Do you?
If for nothing else, I like to see just how unnatural the French fries are when they do that little test. And out of all the different French fries that they have collected from the different restaurants, it's the McDonald's fries that I believe still had not decomposed after like a year.
Still stand the test of time? Yes. Let's see. So, that's, yeah. Oh, you know what? I forgot to say something on the last show.
Do not do one of those pregnant pauses like you did last time.
I was waiting for you to say, yes, Steve, I'll respond to you. What's that?
I did it non-verbally by staring into those baby blue eyes.
Yeah, you were looking at your computer. You weren't even looking at me. Thanks
Steve,
a lot.
I have a show to run, okay? Get off my back.
Okay. I ended up purchasing Call of Duty, COD.
Which one?
World War II.
What do you think?
I have yet to play it yet.
You have not played it. Have you received it?
Yes, I've received it.
Okay.
I went, and this was back during the Black Friday time. I waited amongst the masses to purchase a couple games. So I bought that one, and I bought Assassin's Creed. What is it? Not Odyssey.
Origins? Origins came out last year. Odyssey is this year.
Odyssey, then I got the Odyssey.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what, Russ?
Have you tried playing that one yet?
I didn't play that one.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, no, I just been
I just like spending money and not doing anything with them.
Well, I spent $25 on one of them, $35 on the other one.
There you go.
There you go. So you don't have to spend 60 smackers
Absolutely.
on all these games that are just going to sit in your shelf, Russ.
Did I tell you that I too bought the Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
No, you didn't, but because I was trolling your hard drive, I found it there. So, no, but yes.
You stalker.
Speaking of hard drive, I need your hard drive for the PlayStation because what you sold me has absolutely nothing on it except for your saved games, which I can't access. Thanks a lot.
Well, again, okay. So we need to work our way through this. I've already told you that if you need my external hard drive, you are welcome to borrow it.
Actually, what you said was, Steve, you're getting a great deal. I'm giving you the PlayStation for $200 and it has all these downloaded games on. You're getting a great deal. And
Yeah, you are getting a great
I
deal.
get it home and I just have saved like download content without the actual game that I can't use.
Steve.
Just like my older brother to swindle the deal.
No, there's no swindling. You live 8 minutes away from me. You could easily take my drive and then play every freaking game I have on there. You negative Nancy.
Funny how that was left out of the fine print, but I know the guy Russ.
That's what I didn't know.
Oh,
I don't know how this works.
How do I find out if I downloaded something to my external hard drive or not?
My understanding is that with the Sony consoles themselves, I was under the impression that you could, because I have my account attached to both the PS4 Pro and the PS4, you should be able to play the game on both systems because you classify one as kind of like your main console or your home console or something like that. But the thing is that because I ran out of space on the PS4 hard drive, that's what caused me to get the external hard drive in the first place. So I had to transfer all of the data to the external hard drive.
Oh, well, what do you know?
Now, what we could probably do, Steve, is if you were to buy yourself an external hard drive for the PS4, we could probably copy said assets to that external drive, in which that would be probably a workable solution for your current predicament.
Yeah, more money spent.
Steve, don't be cheap.
You're going to get all this for $200. Actually, no, you just got to go buy yourself a hard drive. Yeah.
You can easily buy yourself like I don't know. How much did you spend on that little 2 terabyte hard drive of yours?
$90.
There you go.
So it's actually, I'm spending $290 or $300.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
200.
I mean, Steve, we all do. We all do. The thing is that the hard drives in those consoles are not set up so that you can have multiple titles all be on there. And because I believe...
well, they are set up that way. They just don't give you enough space.
90% of the titles that I bought for the system were downloaded. So I don't have a hard copy of the game. Now, the other thing is, if you prefer, you could always go and purchase those titles of interest because they're probably like super cheap now.
They're not. I checked.
How much is God of War?
Well, on the PlayStation Store, it's still like $50.
Is it really?
Yes.
It'll go down in price.
Yeah.
But again, it just depends on how you want to do it. So, but the big thing is that it's not like it's not allowing you to play the game. It's just it literally it doesn't have the assets, which I believe I texted you too. Have you tried to re-download the game in its entirety?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work, Russ.
What does it tell you, Steve?
It says, "You ready to download? Give me $50."
What?
Yep.
Well, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
I have a feeling you're not doing something right.
I hit X to confirm. Okay, nope. Now what?
Well, again, if for nothing else, an easy solution is you can borrow my hard drive to plug it in, and then you can play those games to your heart's content and then return my external drive, Steve. I have plenty of games I can play.
Oh, boy. I did make a profile.
What'd you call yourself?
Stevavitch, Russ.
See, I was not able to call myself Toaster 360 on my PS4.
That wouldn't make any sense. Because the 360 was from the Xbox 360.
It was. But in terms of just, people who know what my gamer tag is, I figured, I just put it on there. But no, I have a different name. Mm-hmm. So, but good for you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that's going on in your little life over there?
That's about it, I think.
That's it?
Just just RDR2ing it. I mean, I don't want Red Dead Redemption 2 to end. Let me just say that. Be clear. I don't want it to ever end.
Are you going to be playing the online component after you play?
Definitely going to try it out. Yes.
Yeah. I am too. I never played the GTA Online component. I had lots of friends who really heartily suggest or recommend or encourage, whatever word you want to pick and just put in there. But I never actually got around to doing it. However, with RDR2, I feel as I'm ready. I feel as I want to give it a shot. And I noticed on the top right corner where it says story, they now have an option there for online. So it's like, okay, we got to get to that. But I have heard from multiple sources, Steve. See, to our listeners out there, I believe both you and I are on chapter 4. Mm-hmm. And there is some sort of big event that transpires either in chapter 5 or chapter 6, of which apparently it's a very hard pill to swallow. Have you heard about this, Steve?
I'm sure some big events happen, yes, later on in the game. Yeah, Russ, come on.
Well, the reason I bring this up is that it seems, and again, my friends have been very respectful in not spoiling what happens. However, it seems to be kind of almost like a detriment to their motivation to want to finish the game or finish the story. Like I'm not sure what is going on with the whole thing, but it definitely seems to be kind of a stumbling block of sorts. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, we definitely know John Marston's on his own, doesn't like Dutch or Bill.
Right.
So, I mean, at some point the gang has a falling out. You mean if you've played the first game, you kind of walk into this new game knowing that.
Right. I'm just curious to know what's going to happen with that. Obviously, I don't want to know ahead of time, but when it does happen, I am curious to see what my response is going to be, simply because having played the prior game, I know that there's going to be some kind of falling out, like you said.
Right.
And I'm just curious to see how Rockstar's storytellers decided to handle that.
Oh, you know what, though? So I was in the game and I was doing something, and I took someone's revolver. And it was a better revolver.
That was very nice.
And I took it from him. He was trying to shoot me, so I figured I'd just return the favor. Not be as mean as he was. Actually, I think I did it, not being as mean as he was. Wait. Anyway, so I had his revolver, and I thought, yes, that means I don't have to go buy it from the store. And then later on in the game, it took it away from me. I don't know, maybe I dropped it at some point. I don't know, but I went back into the store and I thought, why is the price still there? It doesn't usually say it's owned if you have a gun, but it didn't say anything. I'm like, I have to buy this thing all over again. So I went back out to my horse. I was rummaging through my saddlebags. I'm like, where is this thing? And then it's gone.
Saddlebags. Well, I'm sorry.
Gotta buy it all over again.
I had a weird bug last night occur, actually. I have autosave turned off, just because it gives me more control over what actually gets recorded.
Yeah, control freak,
I know. And I found the legendary RAM last night.
Nice.
And I'm so glad I saved it after I found them, because I was on my way to the trapper and to give him the pelt and everything else. And all of a sudden the game just signs me out. And at first I was thinking, well, that's odd. Did the controller batteries die or something? What's going on? No, the controller's still on. And once I signed back in, it actually exited me out of the entire game. I had to like just go back through all of the initial main menu screens. And so I was thinking to myself, man, I'm so glad I had saved when I did, because I had found quite a bit of different animal pelts and that sort of thing. And I hadn't delivered it yet. And just, I mean, that would have been a couple of hours down the drain if I had not saved at that point in time. But I thought, man, that is so odd how like out of the blue, it just claimed that it just lost my signal of sorts. You know, like it just said, oh, well, you know, you've signed out. It actually said bye, Russell, at the bottom. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I didn't press the guide button. Didn't do any of that kind of stuff. That is just bizarre.
That's weird. Yeah. I mean, Red Dead doesn't require you to be online to play the main story, does it?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I don't think it would, because I think actually they have kind of a different setup with the game engine when you go online, just because for latency issues and everything else. And actually, I've heard the online version of the game does not quite look as pretty as the single player story.
Oh, I was going to say, like, because Forza Horizon 4, you have to be online, even though you're not racing with anybody else to play the game.
I don't know.
I know for sure. I know for sure because it wouldn't let me in to play the game. I took a picture of the screen.
I have no idea what their setup is. It's a good question. It is a bueno pregunta.
You know,
or is it pregunta bueno?
It's I don't know,
conjugating those verbs and
pregunta something.
I'm not that good.
Reach way back into Spanish too, high school. But I went to do one of the contracts, and I got there, and I had a perfect, like, I don't know, short whatever deer pelt or whatever it was on my horse. And then I went in and I saw that there was like a golden gun emblem that in this fort that you could get. And I thought, yeah, I'm totally getting that. I'm totally getting that. And well, then I died. So then the game almost had it. So then I died, and then it restarted the game. And usually when that happens to me, all my pelts go away. I'm like, nuts. This one, it gave me the pelt back, but then when I went back in the fort to wreak havoc on everybody.
Wreak havoc?
Either way, I wrecked them. But they did wreak still. So, so then I went to look for the gun that I showed up on the map, and it was gone. Like it totally took it away from me.
Yeah, I anticipated that there would be certain bugs in the game. Thankfully, for the most part, my experience has been kind of a bug-free one. But there have been 2 or 3 little areas here and there, which again, I mean, this game is pushing a lot of stuff at the same time. So, it is what it is. Now, I also, if you recall, Steve, last week I was talking about how I signed up for the Anthem beta and I was on the wait list for Xbox. I did not get that. I received a very polite email from EA saying, sorry, no one has forfeited their place in the closed beta. So, oh well.
That's right. I forgot to tell you, I downloaded the Devil May Cry 5 dealio and played it.
And?
I think my Devil May Cry days are done.
Oh!
I think that ship has sailed, Russ.
Ship has sailed.
Yeah.
He's got the writing all across his face.
I'm just not really interested in Dante as in the character that Capcom is making him to be, and I don't know, it's really on the rails kind of a game. I'm just used to having more of an open world.
Sure.
And I don't know, the weapons aren't really cool anymore. I don't know. I've kind of fallen out with it.
Well, hey, sometimes that happens. Sometimes the particular series will go in a direction that just doesn't captivate you. Doesn't hold your interest. Your collective interest.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, Steve. Well, at least there are plenty of other games out there that do hold your interest. That's a very good thing.
Indeed.
I have also started playing Dead Cells on the Switch, and I've like literally just started. So I have so many Switch titles where I'm like at various levels of completion with, but other than that, I just, I watched the Game Awards with you, and that's pretty much kind of like what's been going on with me this week. Looks like Steve is tapping on his phone. Is there something else, Steve?
No, when we were watching the show, I forgot what they said about best RPG. I was trying to Google it. Giggle.
Well, we're going to get to that, Steve.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Okay.
Anyway, why don't we go ahead and segue into this week in game and movie anniversaries. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Well, Russ, a little light this week, but that's okay. Some weeks are heavy, some weeks are light, you know?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Anyhow, so, well, as long as you're not light in the loafers.
What?
What happened to my music?
Continue, Steve.
Man, the world's coming to an end. I'm losing my music. Okay, so this week, movie.
You should have looked at the look of pain on his face just now. Go ahead, Steve.
It's so quiet otherwise, you know? I need some filler. Turning 15. As of December 5th this week, we have The Last Samurai.
Oh, that was a good one.
That's a good movie right there.
That came out, I'm going to guess. That came out in 2003.
Yes, you're right.
I was going to say 4.
I remember I brought our Japanese exchange students to that movie, and they're like, "Whoa, Tom Cruise is speaking Japanese. That's amazing." They liked the movie. I think everybody liked that movie. Gorgeous. By the way,
You're gorgeous.
thanks. Did you know that you could buy a copy of his samurai sword from the movie?
Oh, I'm not surprised.
And you can get it on Amazon. It's like $300 or $400. I think I'm going to get one, but that costs money and I don't have any yet. So, I bought speakers instead of samurai swords. So anyway, but maybe one day.
Use it to spread butter on the bread.
I gotta stretch all the way out here because the sword's so long. Okay, turning 30, Russ, as of December the 2nd. The Naked Gun.
Yes. Leslie Nielsen?
Nielsen. Is he still alive?
Nope. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us.
That was a good comedy.
It was a very good comedy. That was a classic.
Pretty funny movie right there.
Leslie was known, Airplane was another great one that he was in.
Hey, he was kind of typecast in a way, but it's like a good typecast.
If you had to be typecast, that
Right.
would probably be one that you would probably be satisfied with.
Right. It's kind of like how Will Ferrell's kind of typecast, but it's like great Will Ferrell typecast on the movie. It's going to be funny. Anyway. And then turning 40, Russ. I don't remember much about it. I remember I had to watch this movie in like junior high or high school or something, but I don't remember much about it. As of December 8th, turning 40, The Deer Hunter.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
I remember it was a war movie. I'll MDib it and I'll let you know.
Okay.
But right in time for to start the whole holiday Christmas season off. You know,
Sure.
Nice war movie, watching people get slaughtered. You know, video games. Russ. Moving on. December 2nd, 1993. Turning 25. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters.
Tournament Fighters.
For the Super Nintendo.
I do not remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was it's just a fighting. It's like a one-on-one fighting game.
Huh.
That's has a lot to do with all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle world. So Shredder, Michelangelo, Donatello, all of like the action figures that you could play. And
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, you had a fighting game with them. Krang.
I remember TMNT Turtles in Time or something like that.
Well, that was a movie.
Well, there was what was the name of that? There was one game where like you could like throw foot soldiers right at the screen, and it took advantage of the Super NES's Mode 7 graphics, so it would like zoom and scale and stuff.
I don't know if that was Anyway,
Continue, please.
so let's see. 2003, the same date there, December 2nd, 2003, turning 15. If you didn't do the math. Deus Ex, Invisible War. Never got into that one. Had a lot of friends that were into that one.
Yeah, me too.
December 3rd, 1998, turning 20, Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
Now that is a classic. I do remember playing that one.
I had friends to play that one, but I didn't. I think I watched a lot of that game. I didn't actually play it. December 4th, 1998, turning 20, NBA Jam.
That was a quarter gobbler.
NBA Jam 99. 99. December 5th, 2003, turning 15, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. I never played any Dragon Ball Z.
Huh.
Very popular though. Again, not a lot of people who play it. People to this day love Dragon Ball Z. I remember a buddy of mine on the bus to and from junior high.
He's like, hey, Steve, check this out. I got a new game.
He shows me the cover of the game. And at the time, I didn't know what Dragon Ball Z was. But the spacing of ball and Z was like nothing, zilch. Someone's like, you're playing a game that says Dragon Balls. He's like,
No, Steve, it's Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, no, it's Dragon Balls. There's no space.
anyway, he looked at me kind of odd. Anyway.
I'm sure that friendship lasted.
Yeah. It's a Facebook friendship. Anyway, December 7th, 1983. Turning 35. Baseball for the NES.
Okay.
Like the original baseball, like the first baseball game.
The first baseball game
For
that
the
ever
NES.
was.
Yeah.
Probably, well, I don't know if that's accurate. I'm sure Atari probably had a baseball title
Well,
there
no,
somewhere.
not the very first. I'm talking about for
Just
the
for the
NES.
NES.
Yes,
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And that's it.
Well, thank you for that, Steve. It's always a pleasure to go down memory lane.
I know you
with
like
that segment.
it. I know you like it.
Now, something else actually occurred this week, which I think is only appropriate that we take a little gander at, and that is that the Avengers Endgame teaser trailer got dropped. And I'm assuming, Steve, that you have taken a gander at this.
Only one. Not 5 like everybody else, but only one.
Only one, he says. Well, I say we turn that number 1 into 2.
Okay.
Let me just cue it up here.
This thing on? Hey, Miss Potts. If you find this recording, don't feel bad about this. Part of the journey is the end. Just for the record, being adrift in space with zero promise of rescue is more fun than it sounds. Food and water ran out 4 days ago. Oxygen will run out tomorrow morning. That'll be it. When I drift off, I will dream about you. It's always you.
Thanos did exactly what he said he was going to do. He wiped out 50% of all living creatures.
We lost, all of us. We lost friends, we lost family. We lost a part of ourselves. This is the fight of our lives.
This is going to work, Steve.
I know it is. Because I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't.
Hi, is anyone home? This is Scott Lang. We met a few years ago at the airport in Germany. I got really big.
Is this an old message?
Ant-Man, I know you know that.
It's the front door.
That's me. Can you buzz me in?
Now, if they're smart, they'll leave it just like that until the movie comes out. Because everybody has goosebumps and they don't show any action whatsoever. They don't reveal too much. I mean, if they just left it at that, people are going to be wondering and guessing and speculating all the way until the movie's released.
And if you recall, the original Avengers Infinity War marketing campaign, they did an exquisite job of not giving anything away.
Well, they showed a lot of action, though.
They showed action, but I was really happy about how they were able to keep the key plot points under wraps. You did not know how things are going to pan out. You didn't know who was going to be, still remain versus who was going to be turned to dust or whatever. And just in terms of Thanos as a character, you really didn't get to know that character until you were sitting in the theater. I mean, by all intents and purposes, they did a phenomenal job of not spoiling the story in the trailer. And they released, I think, like 4 different trailers during the campaign itself.
They did, but since there was such a cutoff at the end of that movie where everyone's ash and dust, and no one knows, who's coming back, who's not coming back, what's going to happen. If they just leave it like that, then your imagination wanders and wanders and wanders. The more they give you tidbits, the more you're going to figure stuff out.
Right. And what I'm saying is that with the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige, who has been at the helm of Marvel, they've done just a really terrific job of making it so that like you get like they do the fan service, right? Like you get to see all your favorite characters. They get like a little moment in the trailer, but they're not actually giving you any kind of inclination as to what's happening. Where like, so many trailers that we watch, they give all the different things, they give everything away. So, I mean, it really either marginalizes or, straight out ruins any kind of motivation I have or curiosity to go see the movie because they just showed me the entire thing in like a 2-minute trailer.
I'm almost wondering why they released this when they did, because Captain Marvel is not even out yet. And they just literally released another trailer for Captain Marvel not too long ago.
Yeah, well, if you recall, the release schedule is pretty aggressive between the 2 films. Right. If I remember correctly, I believe Captain Marvel comes out 1 month before the Avengers Endgame movie comes out. So it does make sense in terms of like a chronological marketing blitz order sort of thing.
I think they did the same thing with Black Panther and Avengers, if I remember correctly, beginning of this year.
Black Panther came out, I believe, in February. And I think the Avengers Infinity War movie came out in like May, I want to say April or May.
Right. But I mean, during the Super Bowl, before Black Panther was released, they had the final trailer for the Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah. So they know precisely what they're doing. I've read about how they have had to increase security considerably on the set of Avengers Endgame, and just apparently the Russo brothers have written several versions of what the ending is. That way it throws people off as to like how it's going to end. And it totally makes sense to me, just because when you have this much writing on a film franchise, Disney knows like how much money they stand to gain, and they know how much money they stand to lose. So you've got to do your due diligence. And of course, Disney is one of those companies that, I mean, they're pros at doing this sort of thing. So I, for one, am hopeful that they will continue what they had started with Infinity War because, this was just the teaser trailer. It was meant to just kind of, like I said, act as a tool to be able to give the fans an hors d'oeuvre of sorts for Avengers Endgame. But then they'll probably have some sort of official trailer come out. And again, I think because of the sheer number of characters that are in this, as well, if you notice, they were adding more, like Ant-Man's in there now. Hawkeye makes a return, and it looks like he is adopting his Ronin persona from the comic books. So I'm also, can't forget Captain Marvel. She's going to be in there as well. So there's 3 more characters that are coming in, and who knows if they're going to be introducing another character of sorts. We have no idea.
Guess we'll know more at the end of Captain Marvel.
The one thing that I sincerely hope that they do is follow what Peter Jackson did with The Lord of the Rings. When the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out, I believe it was on Blu-ray, they had the extended edition, which basically tacked on 45 minutes of more footage on each one of the films.
They had that stuff out upon release of the DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I really hope that they do that with this, because they have, they've shot so much footage with these films. I would love it if they would be able to tack on like an additional hour to both Infinity War as well as Endgame. What do you think of the title Endgame?
Well, I think it's fitting because partly because some of the actors' contracts are out and they're done with it. So it's kind of like the end game for them. Which, I mean, let's be honest. So, and then later on with the previous Avengers movie, that's something that I forgot his line, but it was Captain Strange. Dr. Strange's line there.
Too many captains.
Too many captains, too many strange stuff. He was going through all the algorithms and different scenarios through his mind, and I forgot exactly what he said, but he said something in game. I'm like, oh, stuck that in a brain fold somewhere.
Very, very nice. Did you have any other comments about that trailer?
I like the music. Music different.
was epic.
Yeah.
And the logo, man, I love how they've done the various treatments of the Avengers logo at the end. Each one just totally works.
Yeah.
I actually, while we're talking about this, have been hunting for those movie posters. It's the ones that just have the Avengers logo on them. They're kind of like the teaser poster. They're not the official poster. But if you recall, they've had, I want to say, I guess this will be the fourth one that they've done where they have the letter A and just the type of textures they've applied to it or whatever are different. I would love to be able to find those. And I want to be able to find the ones that are used at movie theaters, like the 27x40 double-sided, just and to get those framed in mi casa.
I wonder if, I've been speculating on my own a little bit here, Russ. And I wonder if Stark was on Star-Lord's ship in that scene, because he's on something. He's out in the middle of space. And you remember a lot of them turned to dust back on wherever they were on the planet.
Yeah.
And I think Nebula is with him.
Perhaps.
And he was talking to Pepper Potts. And I know in the comic, Pepper does have a suit of her own that was given to her by Stark for a rescue purpose. So I'm wondering if both Nebula and Stark get rescued by Potts.
You are not the first person I have heard present that hypothesis. I wonder if Captain Marvel will be the one to rescue him.
Possibly. You know what? But here's the deal too, Rose. You remember the first Iron Man when he was when Stark was imprisoned and they had like nothing in that little cell out in the middle of the desert, and he still made like this big robotic exoskeleton. Okay, there's a bunch of pieces on that ship that he could easily. He's Tony friggin' Stark. He can make a suit out of something and preserve himself or do whatever he's got to do. He'd be fine, Russ. He'd be fine.
I'm glad you have such faith in Tony Stark, Steve. That's a good thing. I, for one, am pleased with it. I have come to look at them as kind of an extended family of sorts. It's always just, when another Avengers movie comes out or the actual movie trailers are released, it lets me know that everything is not as bad as it seems out in the real world. It's good to be able to see them, even though they are completely fictional characters and this whole world of theirs does not actually exist. But no, I think it's a lot of fun. There's going to be kind of a bittersweet reaction that I'm sure I'm going to have once this is all said and done, just because we have come to look forward to watching these actors over the past 10 years reprise their roles as these characters. And it is a point of interest that I've always had as just a movie-going fan that we've talked about many times, Steve, about how it's unfortunate that the cast and crew of any given series of movies they just can't seem to stick with it. Whether it's, the original Batman movies, you had Batman and Batman Returns. Even in Batman Returns, you had a different set director, which is why the sets in Batman Returns looked just distinctly different from the original Batman. And how Michael Keaton just couldn't stay in the cape and cowl, that sort of thing. Like you had all these different stumbling blocks of sorts, and that just has been successfully avoided with this whole Marvel experience.
That's because people like Marvel better than DC, Russ.
Well, I don't know if that's actually true.
I know. Oh, yeah. I just said that because.
Oh, you hear that?
Oh, wow. Drown me out. Thank you.
I'm terribly sorry, Steve. That snuck up on me. I didn't realize it was going to get that loud that fast. Would you like to just finish off that?
No, that blew my thought right out of my ear, Russ. It's gone.
I will have you know, Steve.
Oops, I accidentally pushed the button.
I turned your volume down, too. Didn't know if you noticed that or not.
I didn't.
Our topic of the day revolves around the 2018 Game Awards, which we were checking out last night, actually, getting caught up on all that stuff. I have a series of notes about this. I suppose the first question I would have for you, Stevavitch, is what was your impression overall of the show?
I thought it was well done. I thought that there were too many kind of preview-y kind of stuff in there. I remember we talked about this last time. I still have the same feeling that I did last year about this that I brought up to you before. You're like, oh, well, it's a good venue. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's a venue. Yeah, everyone's with the games and, premiere, this, that, the other. Okay, I got it. But I think they do it a little bit too much. Because I think we need to be focusing on the games that are, not the games that are going to be. I mean, E3 has its venue. I mean, if we started awarding stuff at E3, then I think some folks would be confused too, because E3 is about all of the games that are coming out. The Game Awards are for awarding games that have come out this year. So if you stick a lot of previews in there, I don't know, it just kind of splits everything up a little bit too much here for you, Red.
I see what you're saying.
But I do, you know what? I like the presentation. You know what's really cool? And this just, comes from the heart here, Russ. There are a lot of dudes and dudettes behind the scene who are working on this stuff, and I love to see them with their families and look, I forgot what his name is. Man, I'm never going to be good at names. But anyway, they get up there and they go, oh, this, that, and the other. My family's made sacrifices, and these people have deadlines. They got to, work in the morning, work at night. And if the stuff's not done, they're putting in crazy hours, right? So it's not, it's video games, but it's crazy hour jobs at the same time. And I like to see that through the generations. It's not just a young dudes kind of thing. You have people with the same vision who have been doing this for generations.
Absolutely.
I that was one of my favorite parts, is actually listening to the acceptance speeches of folks who are winning the awards.
Yeah, I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the show. I think that it is an improvement over the previous year. And this show has been going on now for 5 years. You can tell it's a passion project of Jeff Keighley, who was the host of the show. I thought he did a nice job overall. I think that especially when you have something as new and largely untested as something like the Game Awards, it has the potential to go off the rails rather easily. And I for one am thankful that he has cultivated this program in such a way that's it's a classy show, that it's something that could be one day like stand head and shoulders with the Oscars or the Golden Globe, something to that effect. I think that every year that this has gone on, you're seeing more and more of a higher production value in place, more of a thoughtfulness as to how they can feature different aspects of gaming as it applies to the show. So, which I have a few things here that I wrote down that I'll get to in just a second here. But I for one would love to actually, I don't know if he has any time or not, but it'd be a lot of fun to be able to invite Jeff on the show. Just invite him on Joygasm just to be able to do a profile on him and find out just more detail about how this whole thing got started, because it's actually a big deal to have the type of presence, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that stage is the same stage that they use for E3.
That's what they said.
And that's no cheap endeavor by any stretch. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what has gone on behind the scenes in order to make this a reality, but in order to try and get the amount of people behind the scenes to secure the venue, to be able to reach out to various people in the industry, actually have them show up to the awards ceremony, be able to psychologically create mind share with how important it is that these good folks be able to show up to this, because I see what Jeff's trying to do, which is he wants this to become the standard, just like how the Oscars have become the accolade standard of Hollywood, so to speak. And I think that's a truly a great thing. I think we actually talked a little bit about that last year when we were commenting on last year's award show, but I really thought that, for instance, like having the three CEOs come out at the same time from Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, I thought that was a brilliant move, because it reinforced the notion that we're all here to have a fun time, play games together. And yeah, I think the rivalries will always exist. And I think that's actually a very healthy thing for the industry. I think it's been kind of a part of our gaming DNA to have that competitive nature. But I also think it's cool too to see that there is kind of a turning of the next chapter of sorts, where having those three be able to stand there and be able to talk a bit about just the joy of gaming. I thought that was a nice touch. What'd you think?
No, I did too. I mean, it's kind of like if you take a bunch of artists together and you know, of course they're going to want to sell their prints, but they're not going to be mad at the other person because they make art too. There's millions of people in the world that are making art, paintbrush, pencils, digital, whatever, right? So you can't be mad at that person. Yeah, of course you want to draw better or be more creative than the other person. But like I said, that's the competition is there to make you better. So right. if Nintendo's doing something that Sony's not, Sony is going to try to be better. Same thing with Nintendo. Same thing with Microsoft. But at the end of the day, everyone just loves games, and there is some friendliness because there's games that are cross-platform. There's exclusive titles and there's titles that are cross-platform. So, in that sense, I mean, if they weren't friends, I think it would be odd. I for one expect them to come out there and be professional and just show some sort of friendship. I mean, they're not all buddy, but just showing kind of like that united front of solidarity.
Well, right.
As it applies to gaming. I think it's a really tasteful thing to do. I think that, I go back and forth because I always do hold a special place in my heart for kind of the old school 16-bit rivalries between like Sega and Nintendo, that sort of thing. I think that really helped to shape our gaming culture that has, gotten older as time has gone on, as well as introduce the next generation of gamers into it. And I think this is a very nice evolutionary step, I guess you could say, in terms of just being able to have them on there. Because the only times that we only really see them is at E3. And of course, they're out there peddling their own products to the consumers, to the press, and they want to put their best foot forward. But I thought this was like kind of a nice change of pace. And I for one, am curious to know how that was arranged.
Hey guys, you want to come up on stage and make an appearance? Yeah. Okay, that's good. Let's just schedule it at an hour into the program. Okay, guys.
Let's just do it. Well, and really too, I believe that the gaming industry, it's a smaller industry, relatively speaking, to other industries. And I do believe that these folks probably hang out with each other from time to time and have drinks and just enjoy each other's company. Not to mention the fact that you have had several prominent figures over the past 10 to 20 years make jumps from big company to big company. I mean, we've seen folks who were at Sega go to Microsoft, or
We've had folks from Sony that will go over to Nintendo or whatever it is. Like you'll see this back and forth. Not to mention with third-party developers, it's the same thing as well, where you'll have several prominent figures perhaps will make a jump from their third-party publisher or developer into more of the first-party hardware platform company. So very fun. Another thing too, I really appreciated how there was an emphasis played on the music that was performed at the show. And of course we had Hans Zimmer, who played along with the Game Awards Orchestra, and they played for the first time the official Game Awards theme. And again, I really appreciate the effort that's going into just creating the foundation of the Game Awards in a way that's classy, that is, it makes people who watch it take it seriously. It's not like some high school cafeteria somewhere and they're like, okay, so the winner is blah, blah, blah. Like they actually are taking great strides to make this a very legit. What's going on over there, Steve?
I'm trying to hold in a sneeze. I'm like, well, I'm trying to look up and put my finger to my nose. Say watermelon. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, was I distracting you too much?
Well, Steve, I couldn't tell if you were doing lines of cocaine or what exactly you were doing.
Yeah, I'm putting lines of cocaine on my index finger and sniffing them.
But what do you think of Hans Zimmer?
I mean, I thought it was fine. I think I think it was more of his name being there to solidify the presence of the show. But when you say Hans Zimmer, you think of all the soundtracks that he's done, and the music to me was fine.
He clearly was not breaking a sweat with this particular theme, as opposed to some of his other works for film.
Right. So in that regard, it didn't bear the weight of Hans Zimmer. I thought the music, even though it was pleasant, it was relatively flat. Like I remember mentioning to you, there's people pounding on the drums. I'm like, where's the bass? Like these guys that guy was breaking a sweat. And you just really didn't hear. So I don't know how they filtered the sound through whatever digital filter they had, but I think if they did that, then I would have way more presence. I'm not sure why that wasn't the case,
and I think that's something to look forward to in future Game Awards shows. Really, is that again, there are certain areas that I think are work in progress or up and coming. And because I know what you're talking about, even watching them perform some of the soundtracks from the games themselves, what's very telling is that the game soundtracks tend to have more of an emphasis placed on the current mood or vibe. Like they'll have certain drone sounds that go on that help immerse you into the game experience, which is not too far away from what movie soundtracks do when you watch a movie. But I do believe that one of the areas for gaming that has only, I would say, probably within the last 5 years or so, you had certain exceptions, like Halo, for instance, was like one of the big ones, where back in the day, you had some kind of theme song that really resonated with the folks. Or you'd have like Super Mario would have a certain song, or Sonic the Hedgehog's title screen. Like you would have a sprinkling of certain titles that would have some kind of like marching theme of sorts that would be easily recognizable by the community. But I think within the last 5 years, we've seen much more emphasis placed on more and more titles that will spend time having something like that. Like God of War has a very recognizable theme to it. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't necessarily have like a theme song per se. They have excellent Western style soundtracks that they've made for the last couple of games. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that develop a bit further into the subsequent versions of this show. Another observation that I had were the number of movie actors that made an appearance at the Game Awards. And again, it wasn't like it was flowing like all these crazy amounts of actors, but it got me noticing that there is the start of kind of this acknowledgement of sorts. Again, going back to like having the Game Awards show be a legitimate show to be on. You had the actor, I think his name was Christoph. He was the one who was in Inglourious Bastards and the upcoming Alita Battle Angel movie. In fact, the actress who plays the lead role in that came out with him, and that was a lot of fun to see them there. You had a couple of comedians.
I think they were also involved in some games though too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they were doing some voices for the games.
Jonah Hill, that's his name, right?
Yeah,
he came out. He presented a particular category,
and he's been in. I think he was in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Okay. I for one am glad to see some of that cross pollination taking place, and of course, it's no secret that really there has been kind of a broad interest of kind of meshing Hollywood with the gaming culture. But just as the gaming culture continues to mature, you have more and more realistic games that are capable of telling better stories and having more immersive environments. It's actually pretty typical now for AAA studios to hire out artists that got their start in Hollywood and bring them into more of the gaming business. So I expect we'll probably see a lot more of that in the years ahead. Now, one of my favorite aspects to the show was when they took time to show more of the voice actors on the stage. And I think that voice acting is one of the pillars of a terrific game. And I want to see more of that, because oftentimes these are the unsung heroes of these various games where, we all enjoy their performances in the game, but we don't really know what they look like. We don't know who they are. And it was fun, for instance, to see the voice actors who were from God of War, who played Kratos and Atreus, and just having that little setup where he called him boy again. I mean, it was obvious that the audience really loved that. And of course, we had one of the categories was, I believe, best performance by voice actor, which was won by Roger Clark, who, of course, was the actor for Arthur Morgan.
Let's go, girl.
And Steve is his backup.
Although he didn't say anything in the microphone, though. I wish he did.
There was one thing I wish that he would have added to, because I mean, his acceptance speech was one of my favorite of the night. Yeah. I thought it was so heartfelt. It was so genuine, positive, just real class act all the way. I would have really enjoyed if he would have just dropped some kind of Arthur Morgan goodness.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
That's why he's there. That's why he's getting an award.
Yeah. And the fans are clamoring for it. He's another guy. I'm going to reach out to him and see if I could possibly get him on a future episode of Joygasm. I think it'd be fun to be able to find out about his career and maybe even have him do some impressions.
Yeah, I was watching, this is kind of side topic, but I saw a clip from the podcast Joe Rogan Experience.
Sure.
And they were talking about Red Dead Redemption and Rockstar and the amount of voice work that was done. And, Joe Rogan was doing some of the voiceover for the EA UFC games or whatever. He says, you got to go day in and day out. You got to say things the same way, but different ways throughout the thing.
Right.
So, I mean, sometimes it's like, I just kicked him in the head and, we kicked him in the head sort of thing. and so they had a guest, I forgot the guy's name, but he has done voiceover work for Rockstar. And he says, they basically, in Red Dead Redemption, they had to record all this stuff all the way through and had to do however many takes they did. But then they had to go through and do it all over because they had distance that they had to measure in there. Like if you're 50 feet away from somebody riding a horse, your voice, if you're just talking like this, if you're right next to somebody trotting along, is not going to carry as well because if the person's further away, they're not going to hear you. So you have to yell it. So literally a ton of dialogue in the movie, geez.
Might as well be
and
a
the
movie.
narrative, is completely calm and normal. And then all of it again is yelling because of the distance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's when you are in the process, and see that is some of which what I do at my day job is when we're working on a particular video production and we're doing like a voiceover of sorts, we don't have nearly the scale or scope of what these games are having to churn out, but you do have to do several versions of each line of dialogue, and especially too, like for us, like we have to do one that's in English and one that's in Spanish. So that when you start looking at the sheer number of lines of dialogue that you have to do, and especially if you have to do each line, say between 3 to 5 times in order to get just that perfect sound, I mean, it really does add up. I would say one of the if there was kind of a negative area of the show, I would say it was when Sonic Fox was the winner of the esports category.
Kind of odd.
Yeah, like his acceptance speech just really struck me as awkward.
He was nervous, but I mean, half the time I didn't know what he was saying. He was like, you know, he was laughing a bunch because he was nervous, and then the audience heard him say some stuff and they were applauding, and I'm like, what are you trying to say? Like I heard him say like one of his friends' dads had cancer and he was going to give him $10K.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was going to go somewhere with that, but then he trailed off and started something. I'm like, okay, dude, like where are you going?
He probably was pretty nervous up on stage because he's not, well, but then again, I mean, he's an esports player. I mean, he's used to being in frnt of crowds. So it was just, I was trying to track with him and he was just kind of all over the place. And, I think that when you have members of the gaming community up there, especially the ones that are super good at what they do, oftentimes that's all they do day in and day out is just play games. So they tend to be a little more socially awkward, I guess you could say. But there is kind of a growing trend with some of the other kind of esports social media influencer types that we've seen, even like when we were watching some of the previous E3 segments, like at EA's press conference, they were like, okay, now it's so-and-so who's bloody blah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, who is this guy? And they're acting like they're all that, or I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, I think that is an area that needs to have a bit more polish, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. But anyway, other than that, I mean, everything about the show I thought was really fun to watch. Ed Boon, of course, he's the maker of Mortal Kombat. He walked out to give the category for best racing title, and then
Or it was sports and racing at the same time.
sports and racing. That's right. I loved how supposedly like the wrong trailer got played or whatever, and it ended up being the reveal trailer for Mortal Kombat 11. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought they did that, which was like, someone, it's maybe it was planned, maybe it was not planned, and they did it again with, I think it was Persona 2, I think it was.
Okay.
Where, it's this joke where I've infiltrated the sort of thing. And I thought, okay, once is cool, twice is kind of like, but we already saw it at E3 with Microsoft's booth when they did the Cyberpunk, where it seemed like someone hacked the end of the show.
Yeah.
And which was awesome. But so it kind of was like a me too, like, oh, let's just do that again because that was so cool. And then, I don't know, it didn't have the same effect. But even with that Mortal Kombat trailer, in the beginning, it was awesome with all the lightning, and then it made the Mortal Kombat insignia, and the crowd's going nuts.
Anticipation.
And then anticipation. And then you see Raiden and whoever else that was there.
That would be Scorpion, Steve.
Well, Scorpion, I don't know, was there a second Scorpion? Because the end guy was definitely Scorpion. The first guy was like Shadow Scorpion or something. I don't know.
That's what was confusing, is that it looked like the first one that he was fighting against. To me, he looked and sounded just like Scorpion. His moves were like Scorpion. To be fair, I have not played Mortal Kombat in a little while, but then when the second character came in, Raiden turns around and you look at him and it's almost like he's kind of like the classic version of Scorpion or something. So who knows? It was basically one of those awesome badass ninjas.
Right. But then, so
they have like 5 of them in the game.
They have the storm and they have, this kind of destroyed temple of sorts abandoned, and the two are just fighting each other, and it's awesome. And then all of a sudden, like this modern rap, hip hop, I'm like, what? This is totally like does not fit.
I was just about to comment on that. The one thing that if I had to critique that reveal was that song did not fit.
Right.
And that's kind of a growing issue, I guess you could say, that I have with some of the high profile AAA titles that come out and they have the marketing campaign, is they'll choose these like songs that, you know, by themselves is a good song, but it just, in my opinion, it does not fit
right.
the criteria or the subject matter that you're looking at. Like I remember Call of Duty had, I think it was an Eminem song, and it's like, no, this is... Why would you play an Eminem rap song to military-oriented stuff? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
To me personally, like I know that Eminem is a popular artist, and the song itself was really cool. But looking at it, it's just
the
to
music,
me, it really.
The music has to fit what you're trying to showcase.
Right. And see, we are more. I mean, I guess you could call us. We're just more traditional in our expectation of like having stuff that matches the visuals. I think that there is, in these cases, there is a conscious effort to kind of break that mold and just to have some popular song go along with the visuals, just simply because they know all the kids out there who love that particular song will just be that much more amped up because they're fans of that artist.
Right. But there was a trailer for, it was kind of an indie game. Remember the little dude that was boating down some dark cave and a little bird that came down? That music was perfect with that trailer, and I was intrigued. I don't know what the game is about, but I thought, man, this is full of mystery, and I am curious.
Right.
Even if you want to compare other previews, like I think it was Gears of War 3, I believe, or Halo Reach. If you go back and see those trailers, it's a bunch of intense combat with very quiet music, and for some reason it complements each other, and it's moving. It is moving.
So let's go over the actual winners of the night.
Winners.
It looks like both God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 were kind of the heavyweights of the night. So God of War won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. When it came to that, I honestly, this year is very difficult for me. You know, in our next episode, we're going to be going over our favorite games of the year that we've played personally. And just looking at the list, I mean, this was a very difficult year. I mean, you had Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, you had God of War, Spider-Man, Monster Hunter World, Red Dead Redemption 2. So definitely, normally like each year you have kind of one that stands above the others. You're like, okay, yeah, that one's probably going to get it. Best action game was Dead Cells, which I've just started to play. Best action adventure game, of course, went to God of War. To answer your question, Steve, the best role-playing game went to Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World, okay.
Yeah, it was a Capcom game. I actually picked that up as well on Black Friday for like, I think $20-25, something like that. Best game direction, God of War. Best narrative, however, went to Red Dead Redemption 2. Mm-hmm. Best ongoing game, Fortnite. So Fortnite got some representation. It is interesting to see that Overwatch was actually still one of the nominees, considering the game came out 3 years ago or so. Best art direction. Now, this one was a bit surprising to me because it went to Return of the Obra Dinn. I'm not sure what that game is about at all, but I was pretty surprised that that one beat both God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2. But that's just my 2 cents. Best score and music went to Red Dead Redemption 2, which of course we've been enjoying that each night.
Immensely.
Best audio design also went to Red Dead Redemption 2. Best independent game went to Celeste. Of course, we covered who got the best performance, which was Roger Clark as Arthur Morgan. Let's see here. Best fighting game. Now, this one was interesting because you had a few heavy hitters in here. You had Dragon Ball FighterZ, who won this category, but you also, in the running, had Soul Calibur 6 and Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. I think Street Fighter V didn't win because the Street Fighter V game had already been released, and the Arcade Edition was kind of just this big expansion to a pre-existing game. But yeah, very interesting to see how
who won that one? I forgot.
Dragon Ball Fighter Z, which I've not played. I'm not a Dragon Ball fan.
I'm not a Dragon Ball kind of guy.
My vote was in Soul Calibur 6 because that's more my bag. Let's see. Best family game was Overcooked 2, which I've heard really good things about. Best sports/racing game that Ed Boon did actually eventually go over went to Forza Horizon 4. So I think we were both pleased to see that. Are you pleased, Steve?
As punch.
Best multiplayer game, Fortnite.
No.
I know. Surprise, surprise. Now, Overwatch did win one category, which was best esports game. Very interesting.
We didn't have a whole lot of contenders for esports, right?
Well, you had Dota 2, you had Fortnite, you had League of Legends, and there's another one. I don't know what it is. CSGO. I'm not sure. So was that Counter-Strike something or other? I don't even know what CSGO is. Let's see here. A lot of esports kind of stuff. I do think it's worth mentioning that the content creator of the year went to Ninja, who I follow on a semi-regular basis. He has been a super successful content creator just in his accessibility as someone who plays games every single day. He's be able to cultivate a community that just generates loyalty. He's been able to score multiple deals and gigs with a lot of prominent high profile companies and sponsorships. And it was nice to have him there presenting at the awards. I mean, all around, I think he too would actually be a really interesting person to interview and be able to profile.
Well, I think it's just cool that they had that segment in the award show all together, because just like they have the three main guys for all the video game companies, there's tons of other folks who are making this stuff big and are doing their part or their fair share to keep these games ongoing.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless if it's Fortnite or it's Overwatch or what have you, there's people who are contracted or didn't even look for a contract, but just love playing the game and love streaming their stuff, and they have a great personality and they're entertaining to watch. They're keeping the games popular. And I don't know, I like how they incorporated the content creators in there, because there's something to that. There's definitely weight there, because this is now their profession. They're getting paid buku bucks to do exactly what they love, which, 20 years ago, no one thought that was ever going to be the case.
Yeah, there has definitely been an expansion of sorts to the gaming community, and you could see it, whether it's in Mixer or it's in Twitch or Discord, whichever platform you decide to use. And there are certain challenges in place if you are a content creator. I mean, the sheer number of people who decide to broadcast themselves has exponentially grown. I mean, it really has become a very saturated market. So that means that it becomes increasingly difficult for you to be able to stand out from the crowd. How exactly can you do so? And of course, one of the tried and true methods is, are you particularly super good at a game? I mean, people love watching someone who's just a champion of sorts of a particular game. In Ninja's case, Fortnite is that current title that he plays and plays and plays, and he's just one of the best at, and he's been able to cultivate a following, and just my hat goes off to him. I think it's terrific how he's been able to handle himself and generate a kind of a persona of sorts. So I'm curious to see how this whole thing moves forward, because I do see a maturing process, not necessarily in terms of the personalities of the players, but just in terms of how they present themselves through these new mediums. It's almost kind of like how when YouTube first got started, it was very bare bones. You had the utilitarian aspects of it in place, but really people didn't know what to do with it. And I think that that's kind of the case with the content creators, is that you have a select few who have been able to capitalize on it and be able to create a following, like I said, be able to make a persona for themselves and be able to maintain it. But moving forward, how is that going to shape up to not only maintain the audience that they have, but also to be able to just take it to the next level? And I don't necessarily know what that level is, but in a medium that is always rapidly changing and evolving, such as this, I mean, I for one, I'm looking forward to seeing how all this stuff shakes out. Do you have any concluding thoughts about the 2018 Gaming Awards, Steve?
No, my beginning statement, I think I can use as my ending statement as well too. The way they could go forward is maybe tidy it up a bit. I mean, I like how they kept it professional, and I mean, people were dressing up for it. People dress up more for the gaming awards than they do like the music awards. It seems like so. But I mean, the thing was over 3 hours long, and that's a long time to sit there. I mean, even with movies or music, that's a long time to sit there. But there is ways to tidy it up and make it more direct, I think. And I'm looking forward to the next game show awards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they did a lot of things right. And there was a definite improvement over last year. And last year's was decent too, but it's just nice to see that every year it just gets a little bit better, a little bit better. If I had to critique the show, I would say that gaming companies actually need to start taking it a bit more seriously. I was glad to see, like, for instance, having all three CEOs of the companies, like I mentioned earlier, was very, very cool. Having certain world premieres be able to debut on the program was also very nice. But there was still kind of the feeling of how this was kind of an afterthought show as opposed to like E3 where they bring out all the stops and that sort of thing. And I, for one, would love to see the gaming publishers and whatnot actually begin to push more exclusive stuff through the Game Awards show, just because, I mean, if done right, it would be almost like a Super Bowl situation where like you'd have these amazing commercials that are extremely well thought out. They only are played during the Super Bowl itself, or at least they're debuted during the Super Bowl. But it makes for a memorable experience. And I think that the Game Awards goes hand in hand with the developers and publishers. I mean, this is their bread and butter. You need to make sure that you are backing and properly representing something like this because you want it to become more legit. You want more people to watch it, and it's only going to help you generate more revenue as a result, as well as more fans. Another thing I would like to see is I would love for there to be more presenters presenting the categories. Because if you noticed, I would say probably half, at least 50% of the awards were presented by Jeff. And not only that, but like there were like certain awards where like he would like say who the contestants are. You really wouldn't see the game. Like they would typically you have like a montage showing like a little excerpt from a particular movie or a game or whatever it is. And instead you just see this little like motion graphics inset come out that show like the 5 contenders. And he would say, oh, and this one won. And now on to the next one. And he just he would go through like 3 of them. And I, for one, would love to see more movie stars make cameos. And I would also like to see more voice actors actually present the awards and be able to, once again, do some voice dropping of sorts, instead of name dropping, do some voice dropping so that way people know who this actor has performed in the past, that sort of thing. And thirdly, I would love to see more developers, more publishers and developers, just prominent figures in the gaming industry. Like, for instance, Jeff Kaplan came out and did one of the categories. I really want to see more of that as it applies to presenting.
I would say so, although I'm not so much with the movie stars, but more so with the voice actors. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, not even with the games that are nominated, or with the games that are nominated, but even, voice actors from the past, voice actors from maybe some cartoons that we know about, that we wouldn't recognize their face, but we would recognize their voice. Yeah, so I'd love for them to be, coming up and doing the awards. But I'd like to also see more content creators, maybe other people that we would recognize, from YouTube and Twitch and Mixer and whatnot. I think that'd be kind of cool too.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to all those who won an award at the Game Awards show. I think you guys all deserve it. That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Make sure you tune in next week as we celebrate our 100th. I cannot believe we are there. We are nearly there. 100th Joygasm podcast episode.
Our 100th gasm.
Feeling a little chafed and sore over here.
Man.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/joygasm and consider becoming a monthly contributor. You'll get exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it really helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can listen to our podcast on TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud.com/Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Switch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will see you next week.
Later.